Good evening, paranormal community, and thank you for partaking in this wonderful episode of the Odyssey Files. I am your host, Michael O'Neill. With me, as always, enjoying a nice, refreshing beverage, is my co-host, Mr. David Sorry. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Mike. Cup of coffee. It's freezing in the basement right now.
Well,
So
I had
I'm like, I'm making it's late at night, but I'm making a cup of coffee just to warm up the insides because it's a little chilly down here tonight. So
that's
it's a little
that's
chilly
what
out today. It's like kind of
that's what
nasty, like beginning of winter day.
that's what hot chocolate is for.
Yeah, hot chocolate's good, but I didn't have hot chocolate handy.
Oh,
But I had coffee handy, so coffee won out.
that's fair. Completely fair. I've been wanting to have a cup of hot chocolate, but it's like if I have it, then it's like officially cold, and I'm not ready for that yet.
It's one of those mental things.
It's one of those
You're
mental
not
things.
giving into the fact that it's officially cold today. It's like 22 degrees. The wind is howling and it's snowing. It's cold.
It's flurries, and I had to deal with that crap all day yesterday, so I'm over it. So I'm ready for it to be sunny. It could be sunny and cold all at once. I don't care about that.
All week. It's supposed to be sunny and cold all week.
Not true. The high on Wednesday is like 45.
Well, it's still cold. It's warm for Minnesota, I suppose, and around December 1st. But I mean, still for the rest of the nation, they're like, ooh, 45. Shit, I can't even going outside.
Well, that's
It's
true.
relative. Yeah.
Well, my dad lives in Arizona,
As I say,
and
45 in Phoenix, people don't even go outside.
no,
Go
they
inside.
freeze.
Yeah.
I went golfing with my dad. It was like 58 degrees, and they were pants, rain suit, gloves, stocking hat, and I'm out there in shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And yeah, so people react to cold in different ways. But if it reaches 45 and sunny, if I still had my convertible, that puppy'd be down. I'd be driving with the top
I probably
down.
would too. I'd have the heater on inside the car, but the top would be down.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Got a amazing show for you guys. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. I just thought I was saying enjoy too much. So I was trying to find another word for enjoying was coming up short on that one. So we are going to be talking about Visitation Dreams here in the second hour. So we'll have to wait a little bit for that stuff, but it's a topic that comes up a lot in our stories and questions that people ask just in general about the paranormal. In fact, and we'll get into this a little later, but I honestly think that visitation dreams are probably the number one paranormal experience that people have beyond,
As far as what?
well, just in general. Because, I mean, think of how many people probably have visitation dreams, but don't think of them as like visitation dreams or don't even know what visitation dreams are. So I just think a visitation dream for what it is probably the most common like supernatural experience that people have.
I would say I don't know if it's the most, but I would agree with you. It's up there for sure.
Well, it's probably the most overlooked for sure.
I would say that's probably the most misidentified. Yes.
Yeah.
That somebody has like either lost a loved one and or a pet, either way, because a lot of the research I did talked about both people and pets, and they have the dream and they're like, man, it was like grandpa was really here, and we'll get into like all the fine details of like what makes a visitation dream an actual visitation dream. But yeah, I would agree with you. People probably just brush that off and say, wow, that was an incredible dream I had, and then that's it, and then it doesn't go any farther than that, as opposed to them stopping and going, my grandpa just came to me and like gave me a bit of wisdom, like some life coaching, or to tell me it's okay to stop grieving, and they don't react to it.
Fun fact, the only other more misidentified supernatural event, sleep paralysis.
I would agree with you on that. Sleep paralysis is not a medical
Well,
condition.
I was going the other way. So
I know you are. That's why I had to throw mine in there.
I just want to see what your reaction would be.
Exactly what you thought it was going
to be. Honestly, I thought you were just going to roll your eyes. It'd be like, no. But
no.
yours is just as good. All right. But first, we have another batch of listener stories and questions that we need to get on, because I really want to get to number 6. I find that I find the reemergence or emergence or whatever of the Hat Man to be an interesting story.
I agree.
So, without further ado, the Odyssey Files is proud to present the mailbag. All righty. So, got another batch for you guys here. So, here's number 1. Sensing and seeing an entity in full detail. A couple of days ago, I felt something looking at me from the corner of my bedroom. I turned my face to look at the corner like we all do, and of course there was nothing there. But I could feel something was there. In fact, I could sense it pacing left and right, as if it couldn't believe that I could sense it. I could see the entity in my head. It was about 4 feet tall, dark gray, elongated skull, sideways long, like a gremlin, large black eyes, and a ton of sharp teeth. It met all the descriptions of a gray that I have heard of before, except the teeth. The usual grays described as having a mouth. After I recovered my senses, I spoke to it in my head. In fact, I screamed at it. I'm not scared. Come back during the day so I could see you more clearly. I moved my eyes to the other side of the room several times, and upon returning to the corner, it was still there. I wanted to make sure I wasn't losing my sanity. After 30 seconds or so, I looked around again, looked back, and it was gone. Has anyone had a similar experience, and what did I see? So, I mean, honestly, you did actually describe a gray in complete detail. Again, except the teeth, but honestly, I can't remember the movie. It was a cartoon movie, and it had grays with, basically what you're doing, and it had the teeth. And it was mistaken as something lovable or whatever until it showed its teeth and they just started eating. I can't remember what the cartoon was. It wasn't South Park, but it was more Pixar than it was anything. But yeah, that is what your description reminds me of, because that's the only thing that involves a gray that I've seen that has teeth. Now, can grays have teeth? Of course they can. I don't think anybody has ever been they were just gums. Maybe they're just not opening their mouths to people. So is it completely possible that you just saw a gray smiling at you? It's possible. I think it's fairly accurate. And this is just my own opinion, that a lot of these maybe not a lot. I don't actually have a percentage on it. But I do think it's more common than is known. And that is when people have these feelings and what they consider supernatural type experiences, they're actually dealing with alien. And usually they go unsensed, unseen. So, I mean, it is possible that maybe you just have more of a connection with them. Seeing them would probably tell you that you're an alien in a past life or an alien now. So, I mean, it's just possible that maybe you have a certain ability to sense and then picture in your head what you are sensing. I love the fact that one that you weren't scared, which is good, because that would be one of our first advices, is you need to not be scared. But the fact that you're come back during the day when I can see you more clearly. It's I know you're in my room. Yeah. You might eat me, but you know what? I want to look you in the eye when you do it.
Yeah.
and I love it. Love it. You are my hero in this instance, because you just have that certain attitude that I just love. But what did you see? I mean, my best guess is a gray, just like you said. Has anyone has similar experiences? Yeah. I think a lot of people have. Whether they know it or not is another question. And whether they see an alien or an entity or whatever with the teeth as you did, I don't know. But the whole like gray appearing in the room or being sensed in the room is, I think, a pretty common experience when you're dealing with that sort of thing. So I mean, you're not losing your sanity. I just think you're more in tune to that for whatever reason. I have no idea, than most people do. So I mean, I don't particularly have any advice for you. It seems you got it all pretty much nailed down. And if they wanted to hurt you, they probably would have. So uh, they probably won't come back, just because they know that if they do, you're going to be ready for them, and you're going to be able to tell that they're there, and they won't pretty much get whatever it is that they're looking for.
Yeah, I was going to start with the whole "I'm not scared, come back during the day so I can see you more clearly." Absolutely love that.
Mhm.
Absolutely love that. I think that one or two things is going on here. I think that this is probably a misidentification of a gray, if it was a gray or if it was an alien type of being. I think potentially it could have been a reptilian type of thing, because if anything's going to have a ton of sharp teeth, common sense would tell me that it would be more of a reptilian than it would be of a gray. But so that's one possibility. But the other thing that I'm thinking might be going on here is that it's something, right? It's an entity of some type, uh, and I think that, as we know, and I'm not saying this is a demon, but I'm just using this as an example, that demonic entities have the ability to mimic other things, such as children or a loved one or whatever, to get you to drop your guard. In this case, that's not what's happening, but as an example, um, this could be some type of entity that knows, or that assumed, let's say assumed, not knows, that assumed that you would be more scared if it showed itself as a gray with a ton of sharp teeth, as something that would freak you out, and that it would get the type of response it was looking for. The fact that it didn't get the response it was looking for and got the completely opposite response of what it was probably looking for, would tell me that it's not going to come back and visit anymore. That it was like one and done, and it's like, forget it. There's much easier people out there to deal with than this person. So cool experience. I love the fact that you looked around the room to make sure that you weren't like imagining something, or it wasn't a corner of the eye trick, or a light source flash moment where you thought you saw something, that you actually looked around a couple times. I mean, I think that that's great. That would be great. That would be the first two things of advice I would give somebody, is to stand your ground, and number two, don't, and look away and look back and make sure that you're seeing exactly what it is that you're seeing. So I think it's great that you did. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I know that you didn't ask us that. Um, you've asked us if people have similar experiences. Of course they do. I wouldn't say this is a one-off. I would say that there's probably quite a few experiences that would be similar to what yours is. And what did you see? Well, I kind of answered that. I think it's some type of entity. I think it was trying to mimic a gray with sharp teeth, using that as a scare tactic, and it failed. Um, and I don't think it'll be back. Anything to add to that, Mike?
The only thing, it's just real quick. The only thing that when it was um, pacing back and forth, almost like it was wondering what to do. I mean, I can see it in my head as like it was sent on a particular mission to observe or whatever for a certain amount of time, and then because it got discovered like almost immediately, it was just like, well, this is screwed. And so he was like calling his ride back, and they finally showed up, and that's why he disappeared like 30 seconds later. That's the only thing that I have to add. But otherwise, I think it got covered well. So
Cool.
on to the next.
All right, number 2. What am I dealing with, guys? It all started when I stupidly invited something into my bed. I was taking an afternoon nap in my room, and everyone else was in the backyard. I woke up to someone or something caressing my face, but nothing was there. I was drowsy and half asleep, so my stupid ass scooted away or to the side, and I said, "If you want to sleep for a while, go ahead." I moved over, and I went back to sleep. Later that night, I had a very vivid dream of a dark colored man with an ever changing face. Not like different human faces, but different shapes instead, with no features. He told me something along the lines of, "I love you and I will be back when I can," in a language I never heard before, but somehow was able to understand. And I responded with something that meant along the lines of, "I love you too." Deep down, I don't know why I talked like that or even how I knew that language, but I know it was him, the same guy that was caressing my face earlier in the day. I searched for the words I said in my dream, and there was nothing online. They don't exist. What exactly am I facing? Good question. Um, I read this question over and over and over again, trying to put some type of name to a face here. And the only thing and the same answer I keep going back to over and over and over again, and so that's what my answer is going to be, is that this is a interdimensional traveler. Um, Not necessarily bad, not necessarily good, um, but it's something that exists uh, in a way that it can materialize and it can do things like touch you and it can communicate with you in a language that that you never heard of, but were able to understand. I find that to be interesting, and there's a bunch of reasons for that, possibly for that too. Um, but I think what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with like an interdimensional traveler, somebody who can hop from realm to realm to realm, uh, and just participate in whatever they happen to see that they want to participate in. Um, I think this type of entity is really rare, um, but they exist. I mean, as far as we know, everything. If one thing exists, everything exists. I mean, that's just the way it has to be. That's how your mind has to accept things, right? So if angels exist, demons have to exist. If aliens exist, the interdimensional travelers and shadow people and shadow beings and uh, little transmedian devil-shaped things that with purple balls of energy flying out. I mean, they all exist. So in what you saw, probably really rare and really unique and kind of like a really amazing one of a kind experience. I don't know that what you did was invite something like to attach to you. I'm not feeling that here. I don't feel any type of attachment situation. Most people would read this and be like, "Oh shit, it was a demon and it, you invited it into your bed and now you're effed, man, because it's going to attach itself to you. Your life's going to go to hell." I don't think so. I don't think that's what's happening here. Um, I think that it was just this incredible, incredible experience. Uh, and it's kind of one of those stories you're going to be able to tell your kids for the rest of your life. It says it's coming back. Um, I guess just wait and see if it does, and then communicate with it. I mean, I guess you could run away and hide, but if it really is an interdimensional traveler, you can't hide from it. I mean, it found you in the first place, and if it can travel through dimensions and came to you, it came to you for a reason, probably, unless it just happened to be there and it was a happenstance moment. Um, but I would try to communicate with it and just say, "Who are you? Where are you from? Why did you pick me? Why are you here with me?" Who knows? Maybe somewhere in the creation of time and some past life, you were its spouse. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that sounds far-fetched as hell, but is it possible? Sure, it's possible. And maybe it's been searching for you and it found you in a different life form. Uh, and it missed you and it finally found you and came out, and that's what it was doing, coming back to tell you I love you because you two used to be in love in some other existence. I know that probably sounds like some Ray Bradbury book, but That's my answer. Final answer.
I was gonna say, I think that's more like Daniel Steele or Anne
Daniel
Rice.
Steele's love stories.
Well, exactly. I think that's honestly, I think that's what it is.
Again, for the interdimensional traveler.
Right. So before I get to my answer,
yes,
I just want to say that I do agree that it is wholeheartedly possible for the interdimensional traveler theory. So I agree with it, but I have a different take on it, simply because of the familiarity, the mutual love. This wasn't like some entity that came and mistook, or for something, for somebody else or something like that. Exactly. There just seems to be an energy familiarity, and I almost wonder if this is, and you kind of talked about it at the very end there, is a soul recognizing as another soul. And one from way, way, way back. I mean, I would not find it at all surprising to know that there are languages that have faded from existence. Nobody wrote it down. Nobody, or they did, that was, uh, you know, that's been erased, or that's been faded through the centuries. I mean, if you ask Scott about the Bible, even he'll say that the original texts of the Bible were written in the language of the people, but nobody knows what the hell the language of the people is anymore. And well, exactly. And I think I saw an article recently, like in the last couple of weeks, of they just found a new language and are trying to decipher it. Even now we're discovering old languages. So, I mean, I do think that this is a past soul, as you said, a spouse, a loved one from way, way, way back in time. And as time really has no meaning to them, or to the other side, and everything is past, present, future all at once. I mean, the fact that he says I'll come back when I can might not even mean this century. It could have been like he was in a past life, or he was in another life. He had passed away and became, corporeal, or, became energy again, got all of his memories back, or his entire existence back, and was like, let me go see how this person's doing, how my first wife in existence, is doing. Let me tell her, that I'm still here with her, and found her in that bed. I think the fact that, the caressing of the face didn't like freak her out, and she was just like, come into bed if you want to go to sleep. I mean, that just to me is a familiarity type thing, and irrational if she doesn't actually have somebody who would do that. I mean, if I woke up because somebody was caressing my face, my first response would definitely not be, come on in. No, if you want to take an, I would be like, well, I won't be swinging, but I would definitely be like, what the, that sort of thing. What was that? I would be shocked, because that's not supposed to happen. Right. So, I mean, I think it's just one of those, it's one of those timeless things. And like I said, it's a romantic, because they said, I love you. And that's romantic, David. So, and Ray Bradbury doesn't write romantic books.
No, but I wasn't talking about the romantic part of it when I referenced him. I was talking about the interdimensional traveler.
I know. I'm just giving you some shit. That's all. But yeah, so I mean, I know. But yeah, so I mean, that's just another take on it, of something that could have happened. There's nothing to be worried about. I mean, regardless of which theory is correct, I definitely don't think that you're in any danger. No. And so there's nothing to be worried about. And if he does come back in your lifetime, write to us, because I'm sure we'll still be doing the show. we might be on episode 3,240, but
Right.
one of us will remember this story.
Yep.
And
I would love a follow-up to this. I mean, if you get a second visit, I would love to hear about it.
I agree.
And you actually have like some communication with this being. I think that would be phenomenal. And you're already not afraid of it, because if you were afraid of it, like Mike pointed out, you wouldn't have rolled over in bed and just been like, "Hey, come on and let's cuddle," because that's basically what you did. You're like, "Yeah, come on in bed," like you would invite your lover into bed with you in the morning. Like they got up and you're like, "Oh, come on, come on into bed. Let's lay here for a little while."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, moving on. Yearly residual haunt. Is it possible to only have yearly activity? Is it possible to have paranormal activity that only happens once a year? My house does not feel haunted at all, but in November of 2021, my boyfriend and I were laying in bed when suddenly the faucet in the bathroom turns on wide open. It had never happened before, and the knobs were not loose at all. In November of 2022, my boyfriend and I are just waking up, and we both hear a voice in between us say, "Hey." It sounded childlike or like a young woman. Now it's November again, and as I got out of the shower, the sink faucet was running wide open. My boyfriend is not 100% sure he didn't leave it on by accident, but I didn't hear the water running until I was getting ready to turn the shower off. I turned around in the shower and thought, "What was that?" Then I turned off the water and realized it was the faucet wide open. Weird? Is it possible for paranormal activity to only happen yearly? This is not an old house, and I'm not sure that this matters, but it's not on the exact same day each year either. So, I mean, I'll just answer really quick the question in general. Is it possible to have yearly residual activity? Yeah. There's no real set time on any residual energy. It all depends on the environmental factors, and things need to occur in the proper sense to make things happen. And maybe they don't happen until November. With that said, I honestly don't think that there's anything going on here. Just in my own opinion, only because November, as Dave and I were just discussing it at the beginning of the show, temperatures change. The weather's changing. Things are going from, moderately warm and hot to cold, depending on where you live. I mean, well, they're doing it no matter where. It just depends on how much. So even though your faucet or whatever can be, tight or whatever, that doesn't mean that the changing weather isn't going to make your pipes, expand and contract. And that could, at some point in time, pop the stopper and make your faucet turn on. The hay, I mean, that gives me some sort of stoppage, but that could have been, you guys were just, I think I said that you were just waking up when you heard it. Yeah. So, I mean, if you guys were just waking up, I mean, you could have misunderstood some noise that happened in the house or outside, and you matrixed it. That could be anything. Hell, I hear hey or hi or whatever, like, twice a week, when I'm trying to fall asleep. It happens. So, I mean, I honestly don't think this is anything, paranormally speaking. I think that it's just, um, I think it's just changing of the environment, changing of the weather is just making making your pipes, you know, expand and contract and popping them open. And because obviously every year is different, this activity happens on different days. If you had something that was more definitive, like you saw somebody walk down the hallway, like my answer would completely change. But the faucet turning on twice around November at the same time, and then a mysterious hey really isn't enough to really get me going that there's much going on there. And the fact that you even think that it's residual means that there's no There's no intelligence to it. The best that you could do is maybe around that time, sage your house, calm the energy down, and maybe it'll skip a year. So that's what I got.
Okay. So my answer is similar, but not completely the same. Is it possible? I'm going to say it's less than 1% probable that paranormal activity happens once a year in your house. So I don't think this, I agree with you, Mike. I don't think this is paranormal at all. I don't think residual haunts happen once a year. Residual haunts happen on a consistent basis. That's why they're witnessed. So if it was the same day, if it was November 15th for 3 years in a row, and something really substantial happened on November 15th, 3 years in a row, I would give some credence to the fact that something paranormal is going on. With the fact that twice in 3 years your sink turned on and you were just waking up and you heard a hey, there's nothing paranormal going on. You're completely fine. I don't think you have anything to worry about. And I am not on the bandwagon of yearly residual haunt or yearly haunt at all. If the place is haunted, it's haunted. It's not haunted once a year. If your life is haunted, if you're haunted, you're haunted. You're not haunted once a year. So, I don't think you have anything to worry about. I think that this is all just coincidental. And I think you're completely fine. I don't think anything paranormal's happened. So, all right. Number 4, a woman standing by my bedside. Hi, guys. So, off and on for the past year or so, I've been waking up from my sleep and hearing what I assume to be a woman. I usually hear her breathing and exhaling very close to me, sometimes in my ear, or from the exact center of my bedroom. The breathing sounds strained and drawn out, and it's audibly quite loud. I never attempted to directly observe whoever this is visually because I don't want to put myself in any danger. She appears on some nights and then ends up not reappearing for a while. On a few occasions, I regretfully have woken up facing her direction, where she appears as a dark, shadowy figure, but is also very much a solid being. Wasn't that one and the same? She's a dark, shadowy figure, solid being. All right. I'm not sure if it's because the room is dark and I just woke up, or if it's her standard appearance, but a more detailed description has been impossible to determine. One thing I have noticed is that she usually appears shortly after I fall asleep, typically between 30 minutes to an hour. This has happened so many times and is just too real for me to pass off as my mind messing with me at this point. I'm just uncertain of what specifically I'm dealing with. What are your thoughts on this? I could go two ways here. So, A, it's something that is setting you up for an attack. I don't like the fact that it's darker than the dark and you can see it in the dark kind of strikes me as being in the realm of shadow people. I don't like the fact that it doesn't communicate in any other way, but like the way that you describe the breathing sounds is like, to me, like somebody's like that was a smoker their whole life and has emphysema or COPD and they're dying and they've got that like that death rattle type of thing. That's kind of what comes to my mind with the way you visually, by the way you described the breath and how it's always just a breath. It just doesn't seem friendly to me. It just doesn't seem positive to me that this form would show up repeatedly in your room, that it knows you can see it, that you see it and it knows you can see it, and yet it's still not trying to make any type of contact with you in a positive light, that it's just doing this kind of, and maybe it can't, right? So I'll throw that in there. Maybe it can't, and that's why it isn't. But I don't like the fact that it's just like doing this kind of creepy, you know, like that. So I don't like the fact that it's in your room. It, on the other end, it could be something else, like a lot. I can't even go there now after saying what I said. So forget that. I'm thinking of what I said. So I think that it's something dark. It's obvious. It's not anything like it's not a demon. It's not anything like that. But it's something that's watching you and causing disturbance in your life. And it's not good. So a couple things you need to just I would just throw the whole wall of protection at it and see what it's like. Just throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, type of thing. That's what I would do here. So if you're religious, I would bless the room, put holy water around the door frames, window frames, stuff like that. Burn some sage, put a cross above the door. If anything that'll make you feel better and feel protected and grounded and safe, probably will drive this thing out, whatever it is. It probably will drive it out. If it doesn't, then you need to contact us if you really want some help, because then if you go through those steps and whatever this thing is doesn't leave and it doesn't get affected by that, then maybe I'm right. Maybe it is a shadow person. And if it is, then that's a whole different ball of wax. You're not like what I just told you isn't going to have any effect whatsoever on a shadow person. So, yeah, that's my advice. Sorry, it's kind of taking the dark turn there, but that's kind of what my gut's telling me.
I don't necessarily agree with the whole like dark part of that, only because you would think that it would have done something by now. I mean, breathing, yeah, it's creepy, but I mean, it's not meant to hurt anybody. You know, so I guess I don't. I'm not going the dark road. Only because I think that after appearing so many times and never really doing anything, never touching her, never like showing herself, never trying to really scare her, beyond just breathing. Um, I don't know if I don't think she's in any danger. I think what might be happening, because I honestly wanted to say like maybe it was uh a past a loved one, watching over her or something like that. But in this instance, it would have made, I think, in that context, a much more asserted effort to like communicate or to show its intention, to calm her if it felt, if he or she felt, or she in this instance, I guess, felt that it was. You think it's a guy, even though she continually says it's a woman? Or you think the writer?
It's a woman entity. I think it's a guy who's having the experience.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm still talking she because I'm talking about the entity. But what gets me though now, because I go back to my own experiences. I mean, sure, I was a kid at the time, but there were multiple nights throughout my childhood where I would, I'd have my back to my room, like because my bed was in a corner. So, if I turned over, I'd be facing the wall. And I would wake up in the middle of the night and I could have sworn I could hear breathing behind me and I could feel somebody behind me. And I was sure, I was 100% positive. And when Auntie Dave here, 100% positive that there was somebody in my room. And if I turned over, I was going to see them. And then, I mean, to the point where I would start to sweat. Like I would just, I would be overheating myself, worrying about, this breathing that I was hearing. And then finally I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pretend to still be asleep, but I'm going to roll over. And I would do it every time. it would instantly vanish, open my eyes, nothing there. And I would go right back to sleep, because I would prove to myself.
Interesting though that you rolled over and then it stopped.
But
almost like you didn't want to be seen.
And that is something that I've thought about over the years, especially being in this field now. I mean, this gives me a whole new perspective, as to whether that was real or not. But, to me, I always took it as, one, it was my imagination. And two, when I rolled over, I got rid of the stigma that I was in any danger, or that there was anything actually there. And I proved to myself there's nothing standing there. And as soon as I did that, everything went back to normal. But so, I mean, in this instance, I'm almost wondering if, because he even said that, one time I woke up and he happened to be facing, her way.
He was looking at it. Yep.
So, I mean, he's almost doing exactly what I was, where he was facing away. And if he hears this breath or whatever, that could be his imagination now that he's primed to hear it. I'm not saying that this, whatever this woman isn't actually there, but maybe he just gets that first little sense and then he just imagines the breathing. It's possible. I don't know. I'm not this guy. I would try this out first, and as Dave likes to say, set your boundaries.
Yep.
And before you go to sleep, just say, look, if you're here, don't bother me while I'm sleeping. Don't come in the room. Don't breathe in my ear. If you're watching over me for whatever reason, fine. Or if that completely bothers you, set that boundary too. Say, look, you're making me really uncomfortable. You need to not be in my bedroom when I'm here, when I'm trying to sleep. And honestly, I think at that point in time, you will get your answer. Because if it's, whether it's an old homeowner who's watching out for you, a descendant, or not descendant, but a past loved one or whatever, they're going to abide by what you want. They'll leave you alone. If it is a darker nature, they're not. And so you will get your answer either way, and you'll be able to then act accordingly. If they're good, they'll leave you alone. Your problem is solved. If they're a darker entity and have an ulterior motive, then you can act on that too. And there are ways definitely to, as Dave pointed out, multiple ones to protect yourself and to get rid of them. That's what I got on that.
I would agree. I think that's a good piece of advice. Right? Is you got it, I think it's a good. Is it the right path or left path that I need to go down in this situation? Right? Because right now this person's at the crossroads, so to speak. It's happening multiple times. So is there something there? There's something there. Either that, or we're talking about mental illness. One of the two. Because it's not a one-time. It's not a one-off thing. If you've seen it so many times that you have to say to yourself, look, I've already dismissed the fact that it's not me imagining shit because I've seen it way too many times, and you've already self-diagnosed and made that rationalization, then if you're not mentally ill, then you can throw that out the door. Then there is something in the room. To me, this thing is trying to elicit a fear factor. I just don't see a loved one constantly hiding in the shadows and doing nothing but creepy bullshit. To me, it's trying to elicit fear, and there's that's never a good thing, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, my final 2 cents on
that. All righty, moving on. Doppelganger or something else? So a few weeks ago, I was at my mother's house to watch some movies with her. Before the movie started, I was in the process of taking my makeup off when I heard her yell, "What are you doing? Hurry up." I stepped out of the bathroom, yelling back, "I'm right here." She turned and looked at me and had an extremely scared look on her face. I asked her, "What's wrong?" She replied, "I literally saw you walk right in front of me with your head down, then turn around and disappear." I reassured her that I was in the bathroom all along, taking off my makeup. Her dog apparently noticed it too because she stopped chewing on some toy and looked up at quote unquote me as it walked right by them. She told me that this entity looked exactly like me, same hairstyle, same clothing, etc. But it didn't answer her when I walked by her. Years ago, the same thing happened, but it happened in a different area of the same home. I don't get why she's only seeing my doppelganger, or is this some other entity? What do you guys think is going on here? I think we're probably looking at more, not so much a doppelganger, even though I mean obviously it looks like you, but more of a, I don't even know the proper term for it. So forgive my dramatic answer for this one, but more of a residual time loop type thing where you have in some fashion uh whatever you were doing in your lifetime at that enough to make a psychic impression upon the house. And we talked about environmental factors and whatnot, but for whatever reason, years ago, and this instance, it was enough to create quote unquote for a brief period of time. I mean, the basic fact that it didn't react to you. It just kind of did its thing, turn around, and then disappeared. It didn't answer you. It didn't react to you or your dog either time. So, I mean, there. I know it's upsetting. It's intense. Uh, it's one of those what the f type experiences. But the fact that it's going to happen like once every 6 years for like you know 5.5 seconds, I think you're just going to have to accept it, I guess. The best way of phrasing that, just kind of take it as a great story of your mom seeing you and move on with life because there's really nothing that you can really do about it. It's just going to happen when it happens.
Okay. I am pretty much on board with you. I think this is a perfect example of a time slip, with going back to Cena's, past, present, and future all happening simultaneously. I think that this is like a perfect example of that. So, was it her? It probably was her that her mom saw. It was her in a different realm. It was her in a different slice of the pie. Is really what I see here. She walked by. Obviously she looks the same. She's got the same hairstyle in this other realm. She wears the same clothing. That makes total sense. It was just a time slip. It's just one of those things where the veil got really, really thin, and it happened to happen in the living room with mom and the dog sitting there getting ready to watch a movie. And they saw you walk by because in some other realm at that moment in time, you happen to be walking through the living room like that. The fact that it happened in the house one other time in the same house years ago, probably the same thing. I mean, I don't see this as a doppelganger because I don't think this is your double. And then you get into the whole doppelganger thing of like, oh God, you see your double, you're dead in 7 days, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. I don't think obviously that's not the case because it was 6 years or years ago that they saw you, you'd be dead. And you're not, as far as I know, you're not dead writing this in. So I don't think doppelganger is the right term here. I think this is a perfect example of a time slip. I think it's cool as hell. I don't think there's anything I get the fact that you're shocked. I get the fact that you're like, holy shit, I just saw my daughter walk by and she's in the bathroom and I just watched her walk by in front of the television set and even the dog saw her. Is that freaky? Yes, it's freaky. To somebody with a overloaded paranormal mind, it's cool as hell. And I envy you, and I think that'd be cool if I would have seen like something like that multiple times. But I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. I think that I don't think it's some other type of entity. No, I don't think so. It's not like there's something mimicking you, something evil. There's nothing like that going on here. It just, for whatever reason, whether it's the crossing of ley lines right underneath your house, whether it's some type of portal or vortex that happens to open up occasionally, an extreme amount of energy burst at your, on the land where the house is. I don't know exactly what's causing it, but I think that's what is happening, is that the veil's getting super thin. You're witnessing, or your mom is witnessing you walking by, and you're just going about whatever it was that you were doing at that moment, or what you are doing at that moment, I should say. And she just happens to see you through the veil. Nothing to be scared of. Although I get it. It's freaky, but nothing to be scared of. All right. Anything else on that, Mike?
Nope.
Okay. Number 6, the Hat Man? Question mark. Hi, guys.
Really quick. Let's read it, and then we'll go to break, and then we'll come back and answer it.
Okay, so the Hat Man question. Hi guys, my sister, who's 21, has recently started having dreams of a man who she claims wears a fedora and dresses like Sherlock Holmes. This has been going on for about 2 weeks now, but came to a head last night, and she's getting scared. She told me that he has been chasing her in her dreams at areas like her local mall, and she has had one dream about him per night. Last night, she had 2 dreams about him, in which one, he chased her to her real life room and roughly grabbed her, which woke her up. She said she could move this time when she woke up. Sometimes she feels frozen to the bed, but she saw him staring at her from the bedroom doorway before disappearing. I'm worried because from what I've heard and read, the Hat Man shouldn't be able to touch people. My sister says she thinks he's extremely powerful and he is just trying to freak her out. She also believes in the paranormal, but she never talks about it or asks about it out of fear. So the fact that she came to me about this is really worrying. Is this entity actually the Hat Man? And what can we do to get him to leave her alone?
All right. The answer when we return. Said in true journalistic integrity. So we'll be back after these words. You what? You felt it?
True journalistic integrity. I felt it. It was oozing out.
Yes, sir. All right. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes with our answer to the Hat Man question. See you on the other side.
Hey, this is Mike Couch from Lost Limbs Foundation. Make sure you check out Mike and Dave on the Odyssey Files because they really need the listeners.
Hello, I'm Al Lagarde from Paper Route Productions, executive producer of Kindred Spirits, Paranormal State, a whole bunch of television shows. And I've worked with a lot of people on paranormal projects and met a lot of people in paranormal radio. And I want to say that Dave and Mike are 2 people who have a face for radio, in particular, internet radio.
Hey, it's Chris Fleming. More painful than a Tyrannosaurus Rex stepping on your testicle. Listen to Dave and Mike on Odyssey Files.
Hey everybody, it's Chad Lindenberg, and you are listening to the Odyssey Files with David and Michael. And let me tell you, it's almost as painful as a Skype glitch.
This is Andy Lynch, Director of Photography of Kindred Spirits. And when I'm not filming Amy and Adam at some creepy location, you can find me listening to the Odyssey Files with Dave and Mike. Or doing something else, I don't know.
Hello everyone, this is Ken Vogel. You know, you hear so many great moments during each and every episode of the Odyssey Files with Dave and Mike, but if I had to really choose my favorite moment, it would have to be when the show is over.
And we are back. And we have a very important question to answer. So take it away, Mr. Sawyer.
Gotcha. Just finishing up jotting down some notes. Okay, so there's a lot going on here, so it's I'm going to try and dissect it the best I can. This is a rapid onset case, which is interesting to me. Also, the fact that she's 21 doesn't, the Hat Man has it, that from everything that I know about the Hat Man and everything that I've read, the majority, and I'm not saying that you can't be 21 on your first visit, but what I'm saying here is the majority of people who are visited or have experiences from the Hat Man, it happens when you're a child, or young. Let's just say young, young teen, could be 5 years old, could be 11 years old. But 21 is, to me, 21 seems like kind of a rare age to get a visitation from the Hat Man. This rapid onset thing, but for like you're getting like he's visiting you once a night, like for 2 weeks straight, and then twice, and then you're being chased at your mall and in your bedroom and da. I mean, it sounds to me like it's Freddy Krueger. I had to throw that out there. Now, that's not saying that she's not experiencing something. It's not saying that she's got a vivid imagination or she watches too many horror movies. But what I am saying is it the Hat Man? I don't think so. I just don't. It just doesn't pop into my gut here that this is the Hat Man. Do I think that she might be experiencing some type of entity that's really menacing and screwing with her? Yeah, I do. One of the things that doesn't jive with what I know about the Hat Man here is the Hat Man doesn't rough people up. He's intimidating as hell, but he usually does his intimidation through telepathic type of communication and kind of physical dominance, fear creation. Doesn't need to touch you because he has the ability to elicit a gigantic fear response. And that's what everybody feels. So he doesn't have to grab you and throw you and rough you up. That just doesn't fit into the Hat Man scenario. So that would make sense from what you read and what you've heard, that the Hat Man shouldn't be able to touch people. I don't know that it's necessarily he can't touch you. I just don't think he does. I don't think he needs to. There's no reason for him to. He has the ability to do what he needs to do without physical harm. Also, the other thing here that doesn't tie into the Hat Man for me is he's just trying to freak you out. I don't know. At your age, what do you have to offer that he's there for? At 21 years old, are you just like, did something happen? I guess would be my question. Like at 21 years old, did something happen? Did you go through a traumatic incident, bad car wreck, near-death experience, some type of life-changing experience that set her on a different course? And so now all of a sudden this path that she's finds herself on, or this life direction change, this major change, has elicited the response of something like the Hat Man, where now you're on his radar. Whereas for 21 years prior, you were never on his radar because you didn't offer anything for him, or you weren't a threat. Now all of a sudden you are. So, I don't know. Do I think it's the Hat Man? I don't. Sorry. Do I think it's an entity? I don't know. It seems off. It seems like a whole lot of shit's going on in a very short amount of time. There'd have to be some sort of background here with her having experiences prior to her, somewhere during her 21 years of age. And what can you do to get him to leave her alone? Well, first thing you'd have to do is identify exactly what it is that's bothering you, or what it is that's chasing you, or at least if you can't specifically identify it, and obviously that could be extremely difficult to do, you would have to get a general idea of what it is and then take the proper steps based off of that general idea. If it is the Hat Man, and I don't think it is, but if it is the Hat Man, can you get him to just leave you alone? No, you can't. So if it is the Hat Man, you're just going to have to deal with it until he's satisfied that you're no longer a threat. truth.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm going to disagree with you on the Hatman thing, on a lot of things actually, because there have been instances where he has used dreams to chase people, uh, for the exact thing of you creating fear, of getting them to go where he wants them to try and capture them, because I mean that's kind of his goal, is to get to whatever, however he does it's his goal to catch you in your dreams, and then he's able to I don't know, possess you, do whatever. um there have been, I do agree with you that typically the Hammond does not have to touch anybody. Usually it's the fear, it's the supervision, it's the watching that he is out for. There have been certain stories that I have read where he has physically assaulted. Now, what the reason for that is, I have no idea. It's few and far between. It typically does not happen. Um, there are, I do remember two stories specifically that I've read that have stuck in my head, where he tried to manipulate and get a person to kill themselves. And this woman actually, I think, like did so, but was saved. And he turned up in the hospital and he leaned down right in front of her face and put his fingers close together. And he goes, "I was this close to having you." And then he disappeared. There was she was older. I think she was older than 21, but she wasn't a kid. The second one that I remember is like a younger child, 7, 8, 9 years old or whatever. But the Hatman like literally like came in and grabbed him by his, pajamas or whatever, and like tried to yank him out of bed. He had like bunk beds or something like that, and the mother or the parents or whatever found the kid with his head between the whatever you call them, the railing. They had the posts that go down to make it look nice or whatever. Um, but he was physically assaulted by the Hatman. Now, what sets him off in that way, I don't know. It's so rare, and it's not like he tells people. It's not like he comes in, he goes, "I'm angry at you," and then it starts attacking them. He has his reasons for doing whatever it is he's doing, but the whole physical altercation is a rarity. The chasing in the dream is not. There are lots of stories of that, but again, not that often. Not over the course of 2 weeks, every night. Um, he wants you something fierce. I have no idea why. And the only advice that I can give you, the only thing that has really been known to get him to leave, not leave you alone, but leave, is to use the name of Jesus Christ. That usually that really irritates him and he vanishes. Sometimes he doesn't come back. Maybe because he thinks you're just going to say it again. I don't know. In this instance, since it seems to be like a really intense type, like he's got a hard on for you, that might not be enough to get him to leave you alone. But I guess you could just annoy him by just saying it over and over and over again. But that does seem to be the one thing that gets him to leave, is saying the name Jesus Christ, starting to pray, that sort of thing. I hope he does leave you alone. I don't know why he's after you. Dave's right. More context is really going to be needed as to why now. Did he visit you as a kid and you just maybe you don't remember, and now he's back, or what he's trying to do. But you definitely need to try to protect yourself in whatever way you can. and going the way of God. And this is me talking. I don't give that advice like ever, but in the stories, that does seem to be the only thing that gets him to go. That's all I got.
Yeah, it's the rapid onset thing that's got me thrown for a loop here.
That's a rarity.
There had to be something that happened prior to those 21 years. Maybe she blocked it out, right? Or, her sister says she believes in the paranormal, but she never wants to talk about it. Maybe the reason she never wants to talk about it is because she had some really effed up situations with the Hat Man throughout her whole life. And this is just the first time her sister's hearing about it. And then obviously that would change the whole entire scenario and synopsis of this question and my answer and all answers, because we'd be in a totally different path.
Yeah.
But as it's presented, I'm sticking with what I had. I just don't see it. I just don't see this rapid onset and him being physically abusive. And it'd be like a 1% type of case if it was really happening.
Oh, absolutely. This is the first time that I have read a story, that potentially involves him sticking to like just being so focused on this one person that, he comes back over and over. Like there are many stories where people have had multiple instances. And visits and stuff, but not this much.
Not 14 in a row.
And the only thing that could ever possibly that would fit in our theory as to why he's visiting people is people develop their abilities later in life sometimes. So if she believes in the paranormal, she might have started to try to develop abilities. Maybe she went to a psychic and they're like, you have like really strong abilities. You should learn to, harness those and stuff like that. And she might have opened the door that caught his attention.
Right.
And
Something
unknown.
happened.
Yeah. And this is obviously has really freaked him the shit out. Why? I don't know. Again, it's a absolute rarity. And regardless of whether there's the Hat Man or not, steps need to be taken to protect you. Because no matter how you look at it, it's not good.
No.
What is going on?
No, not at all. I mean, for 14 days straight, your life has been sheer hell. That's an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an issue. I can't imagine that you're sleeping good and functioning well during the day with horrific nightmares like that or horrific experiences while you're dreaming. Even the best of us don't. You're going to get wore out. You're going to get wore down with that constant bombardment of attacks.
Yep.
So be careful. I do agree with you. The name of Jesus, throwing the name of Jesus out there works.
Apparently, that's what all the stories say.
I've read dozens and dozens and dozens of instances where they've used the name of Jesus Christ and gotten him to stop that particular attack or that particular moment of intimidation. But it's not. Is it a cure-all? No. There is no answer for getting the Hat Man to leave you alone.
Yeah, because he's not of this realm.
He's not right, exactly.
So all you can do is annoy him and piss him off enough where he doesn't want to deal with you anymore. Because that's about what the name Jesus Christ does to him. He gets really angry and he might even yell and swear at you, be like, Jesus can't help you right now or whatever, and then he'll disappear. And whether you
have to stand your ground on that one and just be like, well, Jesus is helping me because you left last time, you piece of shit, and get into it with him.
Oh, exactly. So
like that one story that got sent to us where the lady's like, and I'm scared to go downstairs to get a pop, so I just sing out loud and just to annoy everything to stay the hell away from him. That's great. Just do something to annoy the shit out of him. Maybe he will leave just because he's annoyed by it.
Even the afterlife doesn't like to be rickrolled.
There you go.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's mailbag. Again, if you would like to send in your own questions, your own stories for us to read and respond to on the air, OdysseyFilesRadio@gmail.com, or direct message us on any of our social media platforms. So, yeah, moving on. Topic.
Moving on to our topic of the night.
So, visitation dreams. So this topic came up last week on the show. We had a listener write in and talk about dreams that she was having. Now, this is the one, correct me if I'm wrong, where the lady wanted everything to just stop. Like everybody was coming to her in her dreams and she wanted it to just stop.
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we were on the right page. I did get a response from Cena finally on that, because I did throw it out to her, and she pretty much just reaffirmed what I had said. Set your boundaries before you go to sleep. I'm shutting myself down. Nobody bother me. Nobody's allowed to, that sort of thing. And you should be fine. But that led us to this topic, and I think it's honestly, I'm surprised we haven't hit it before, because it comes up a lot. I've had visitation dreams. In fact, as I was doing the research for this, I came across, things of like being memorable, stuff like that, that you can remember, months, even years later. And honestly, it's pretty much accurate, because any dream that I have had where I feel like I was actually visited, I still remember. And it's happened, a couple of them, or one of them at least, happened years ago, at least 5 years ago. And I still remember it as vividly as if it happened last night. And we'll get into that later. Because I think that talking about our own experiences with visitation dreams is important.
I would agree. I mean, first one I've had multiple. First one I ever had, I was, I'm going to say 5 or 6, right around there. It was right in that time frame when my grandpa passed away, and he came to my room and woke me up and sat on the edge of my bed, and we talked, but we didn't talk speaking. We talked telepathically, and I don't even have to close my eyes. I can see the moment. It's, that's 50 plus years ago. I can see the moment clear as it happened. And he looked great. Like he died of a widowmaker heart attack. Right. And he had been kind of suffering a little bit prior to that, but this was like a major unexpected widowmaker. And, but he looked fantastic. He looked younger. He looked healthy, was in a great frame of mind, full of love and light. And he had just said to me, everything's going to be fine. It's okay. I'll see you again, type of thing. And, it was kind of, there was some more personal stuff than that, which I'm not going to get into, but I mean, it was basically, the gist of it was, everything's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. We'll see each other again. Okay. So we'll leave it at that. The next morning I get up, I'm in my little Hot Wheels footy pajamas, and I walk into the living room, and the whole entire family, aunts, uncles, cousins, everything, grandma, everybody's at my house, and everybody's crying. And I walked into the room, and the first thing that my mom says to me is, and it was my mom's dad that passed away. First thing she says to me is, Grandpa passed away. And my response was, yeah, I know. He came and told me last night, which you can imagine the response I got from the room of grieving. I mean, there's probably 15 people in our living room, right? And you can imagine the response I got as this little kid standing in his footy race car, in his Hot Wheels PJ footies. Just the look on everybody's face after I said it, it was like slow motion. It, like, as I looked around the room, it was just like, that seemed like a dream, as opposed to my grandpa being there. Totally didn't seem like a dream. It was just a life moment, and that's one of the big things about visitation dreams, is that they're not like a dream. It's like an actual life experience. And that's exactly what this was. It was my first experience of a visitation dream. But that's why I remember it so damn vividly, is because it was a moment in my life, just like Grandpa had been in real life, had come and sit with me. And it was a very special, very loving, very bonding type of moment. And he was there. I mean, he literally was there. We literally had that moment. So had it been a dream, I wouldn't remember that shit 50 years later. I've had thousands and thousands of incredible dreams that I don't remember, but I remember talking about them at the time and like being like, holy shit, I had this dream last night, and sharing it with people and stuff. But I don't remember those now, not 40 years later. But they were cool as hell at the time. But that's the differentiation between visitation dreams and just a normal dream. One of the major differences.
Yeah. So there's something here that, I mean, somebody actually put in like a definition of a visitation dream. Visitation dreams are emotionally intense dreams where the dreamer sees and or interacts with the deceased loved one. Now, I actually don't agree with that definition. I do agree. Obviously, most of them are the loved ones, deceased loved ones, coming to you for the reasons. We'll get into that here in a minute. But I believe like your spirit guides can come to you in dreams. You know, non-loved ones can come to you in your dreams. In fact, I was talking to Cena one of these times and actually brought this up because we were talking about, and you and I have talked about it here on the show, about our spirit guides and how they never come to us and they don't show themselves. We don't know what they look like. And I not sure if I told you about this or not, but I mean, there was, God, I mean, it must have been 7-8 months ago, where I believe a spirit guide came pay me a visit, and in a weird way, but I do believe that it was one of them trying to help me out. And just a kind of a brief synopsis of this, as I've said on the show before, I work for UPS, and so and there are certain rules that you have to abide by, like wearing a vest in the yard and stuff like that. You know, a safety vest. And for whatever reason, I had a dream where I was just driving in my normal car. I was in the turn lane, turning to go wherever the hell it is I was going. And all of a sudden, a guy came by on what we call the tram, which is one of those electric carts that, you know, people drive around, maintenance people drive around the terminal and stuff like that. And he came up to, and he stopped. He was on the sidewalk, stopped, got off, and came up to my window with a safety vest and says, "You're going to need this." And then I just kind of woke myself up because I was like, what? What is that all about? And I shit you not, ever since that dream, I never carried around my safety vest at that time because I didn't care. It sits in my lunch pail. And I don't know, like 3 weeks later or something like that, I had a supervisor that rode with me on, you know, their monthly type of ride along. And we got back to the fuel aisle, and the first thing he says, "Do you have your safety vest?" Yes, I do. But I wouldn't have if it hadn't been for that dream. So I mean, and I had no idea who it was. I'd never seen the guy before in my life, so I knew it wasn't a loved one. But I definitely think because it was so vivid, because it was so like specific to me,
right?
That one of my spirit guides or somebody who was looking out for me decided to make it known, I'm going to need this, and you know, here's something to help you not get in trouble. So I want to add that they're perfectly right in their definition, but I want to add that deceased loved one, or, you know, spirit guide, somebody who's looking out for you.
Right.
Pet?
I mean, I've had pets come and visit me that have passed away that they were there. I mean, I wasn't I've had cats. I had cats because I was married with 3 daughters. You know, that's why I had cats. Had I had a cat, I mean, I'm not a huge cat guy. I can take them or leave them. But for me, so I say that out of respect for cats. I don't dislike cats. I don't like cats. I'm kind of neutral on them. But for me, me saying that, I'm a huge dog guy. So I would expect, like, my golden retrievers. I've had golden retrievers, multiple golden retrievers throughout my lifetime. I would think my golden retrievers would come visit me and be like, Dad, this is, I'm in a great place and everything's cool, right? Because I mean, I wept like a baby when they passed. So, and I never cried when a cat died. So what's that tell you? But
that's your human.
But damn cats, like, come back into my, like, come and visit me, and like are like I have felt them walking on me and stuff, and like purring and breathing and like laying in a way, and me petting them and being like, hey, is everything okay? And they're like, hey, everything's cool, man. And then it was just like I got the sense that everything was fine, and that they were going to be okay, and that somewhere down the road I'll see them again somewhere. Somehow I'm going to run across them again, whether it's their energy, but I doubt it's going to be the same specific individual, but I'm going to run across their energy again somewhere in the future. So I do believe that pets can also do visitation dreams, only because it was just as real as my grandpa's dream, right? I mean, and I've got to use that as a kind of as kind of like a basis for like that. My grandpa's visitation was a visitation dream, so I use that as a yardstick measuring tool for every other dream to measure up to. Was it a visitation dream? Was it just a really vivid dream? Did I create it? Was I lucid dreaming? Did I go into a dream and then I chose to have this path? And so I created the dream like I was directing a movie. So it's interesting that my cat decided to come back and be like, hey, dude, everything's fine. And I was just like, okay. Did you see my dogs while you were there? Did you see Jasmine or Sophie? Were they playing in the field? Were they too busy chasing rabbits, or somebody throwing a stick or something, and they couldn't stop by and say hi, Dad, and let me know everything's okay?
Yeah, the cat doesn't care about the dogs.
No, they wouldn't. No, right? He'd have been like, I have no idea. I don't. Stupid dogs.
Yeah, it'd probably get you a ghost swipe across the cheek.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would get you a pat right upside the head.
So, signs that you have had a visitation dream. Now, I want everybody who's listening to this to think about dreams that they have had in their lives that they still remember, and see if any of these match, whether you had a visitation dream or not. So the first one, being vivid. Visitation dreams are clear, and as Dave mentioned a couple times, it's a life moment. Like you feel like you are awake and that you are actually talking to them, even though you're dreaming. Being memorable, and that's what gets me right there. Is it's very memorable to me. The dreams that I have had. And it could stick with you for months, even years. Clear communication. So I think that's a big one. Because I mean, there's a lot of dreams that I've had where, yeah, I mean, when I wake up, I'll be like, that was a funny joke or whatever. But 2 hours later, I couldn't think of the joke if I wanted to.
Right.
So, but I do remember, as I just said in my whole, the whole like safety vest thing, the only thing he said, you're going to need this. And I remember that perfectly. I remember he was standing. I remember everything about it. I've had a couple dreams where my mother, after passing away, has come to me. I still remember that. A positive state of mind. So deceased loved one will often present as happy, calm, and loving, even if you have negative associations with them. No, I haven't heard that one before. because usually if you have negative associate, usually they don't come to you. And they're certainly not, hey, I'm here. What's up?
Once you pass, you leave all your baggage behind.
True. But if, like, I don't really have anybody in my family that I have like harsh feelings for at all.
I don't have anybody.
So, but I mean, if I did, even if they died, I would still have those feelings. And if they came to me, I'd be like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you coming to me?
But the point is, they're the ones that passed. And so they're reaching back out to you for what, maybe just to tell you that, hey, we shouldn't have these. You shouldn't have this animosity feelings towards me, or I forgive you, or whatever the important message is that they feel that they need to provide for you, because they're not, like I said, they're not carrying their baggage forward. So even if you hate, let's just say you had an uncle that was abusive, and then he passes, right? He might come, you might have a visitation dream of him, for him just apologizing. I mean, you might hate the guy, spit on his grave, take a piss on his grave type of mentality, like you hate him that much. But he might be coming back to just to let you know that, he screwed up, or you misinterpreted what happened, or some, who knows what they, it could be a million different things that they would come back for. So I am on board with that one. Like that's the beauty part about passing away, is you don't carry any of your shit forward. So you don't carry any physical ailments. You don't carry any shit that's weighing you down in real life. You don't have any of your baggage. You don't have anything. You're moving forward. You get a fresh start. You get a healthy body, healthy mind, and you get to kind of take your next step in the journey. But I respect your opinion. If you don't feel that way, then you don't feel that way. I clearly see that as being one of the kind of core things of a visitation dream.
I guess I can see that. I mean, again, like I said, I don't really have I don't have that big of a family. And
I don't either, and I don't have any, I don't hate anybody. I mean, there's people I could take or leave, but I don't hate anybody.
I have certain people I hate, but none of them are family. But anyway, you're gonna have to take this next one, because the ability to lucid dream.
Yeah.
Now, to my knowledge, I don't know how to lucid dream. I don't think I've ever done it. I think when I'm about at the point where I probably could, I just wake myself up. And I lose all of those opportunities to do so. Because I mean, that typically seems to happen when I start to figure out that I'm dreaming, and I could probably, start to lucid dream.
Start controlling it. Yeah.
Yeah. Controlling it. I just end up waking myself up, and it goes away.
I think that's not you waking yourself up. I think that's your spirit guides pulling you out of there, because for whatever reason, they don't want you lucid dreaming.
Well, boo to them.
Well, I agree. That's a shitty thing for them to do, because lucid dreaming is amazing. It's like directing and starring in your own movie. So it's like being Steven Spielberg and creating this blockbuster movie, and then being able to star in it at the same time. And if you don't like something that is like if you don't like a scene's going and you're like, this is great, and then you're like, no, wait, time out. That's not, we need to cut that part of the scene and rewrite it and redo it. In lucid dreaming, that's kind of what it's like. You get to kind of go back and make some changes and create a different path. Now, I've had a handful, I'd say probably tops a dozen, what I would consider to be visitation dreams. Because it'd be interesting too, and I'm not going to get into them, but let's just say I've had 12. Of the 12, 10 have been positive visitation dreams. 2 have been really effed up negative dreams. Like bad. And I don't even know how, the person who was involved in it, I don't even know what the hell was going on and why they were there, and what the hell happened with all the shit that happened. But I have never lucid dreamed during a visitation dream. And I'm not saying it's not possible, But if you're having a visitation from a loved one and they're trying to deliver a message to you, why would you feel the need to go in there and take control of the situation and change the parameters of the visit? Because that's really what the core of it, that's what you would be doing. So as a lucid dream. So why would you go in and change that when this deceased loved one and or spirit guide and or pet or whatever, something that is really cares about you and is looking out for you, why would you go in there and try and change that by lucid dreaming and taking control of the situation and manipulating it? Is it possible? Probably. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I don't know the laws of dreaming. Nobody does. Again, just like there's no paranormal experts, I don't think there's any dream experts. It's a realm that we don't understand. The human mind is an amazing, complex thing. I think there are people that are well versed in it because they've done a shitload of study in it. So if you want to throw the term expert in there, I guess feel free. But I don't think there's any true experts in dreams. I don't even know that they could do. Do I think it's possible? Yes. Do I think it's probable? No.
So the only thing that I can think of here when they say about lucid dreaming is the ability to actually sit down and actually ask the questions that you want to ask, have the conversation that you want to have. Because in all of my visitation dreams, there's some sort of fictional context to it. With the whole safety vest thing. I mean, driving in a car and he used a UPS tran. I mean, what's up? All he really had to do was come to me and be like, "Hey, I'm a spirit guide. You're going to need a safety vest at work." But there's like some fictional background to it that sets that up. My mother and grandfather came to me in the same dream in order to give me the message that I needed to stop what I was doing. But that was based on this, like, they didn't just stand in front of me and be like, "This is what you don't do," or "This is what you need to stop doing," or "This is what you're doing, and this is what we're here to warn you about." I was walking into, a kind of fictional thing of my grandmother's house and opened the door to the garage. And like, instead of the floor being like 2 steps down, like it was a whole floor down. And, I was just going to fall over. Well, they, from the kitchen window, they both were standing there and screamed, "No!" And that got my attention. And I turned and saw them both standing there. And then I woke myself up.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it wasn't just them standing there.
It was the next message to you that was important.
Exactly. But
right.
but based on an imagination type dream world. And then obviously the third one, I don't even remember what was going on. It was just some random part of the day thing I was doing with my mom. Like, it really didn't matter much, but the hug that she gave me at the end, right before I woke up, was what triggered it, was what made me realize that it was actually her, because I could feel it. I could feel it. I could sense it. And it stayed with me after the point to the point where, I bawled for like the next 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it wasn't just her standing there being like, you look like you needed a hug, so I came to see you. Now, if I could lucid dream, I'd be able to just stop dead and be like, "Mom, I really want to talk to you."
Right.
I want to, but I wasn't able to because I was still in this dream world. So, I mean, I don't think they necessarily want to change the dream, but they want to be able to control it to the point where they can be a part of it, as opposed to their imagination controlling everything. So, I mean, that's my take on the whole lucid dream part. That's what I would do. I would love to just be like, screw the screw whatever it is we were doing and screw my grandma's house. I'd rather just sit down in the living room and have a conversation with you. And
Regretfully, it doesn't work that way.
I know, but maybe it can when you lucid dream.
I wish it did too. So what you're saying though, that isn't what lucid dreaming is.
Oh,
so lucid dreaming is the ability to alter the path, but in lucid dreaming, you're not able to take a loved one, sit them down and have a conversation with them. That's not like, you can't control it that finite. You can change the path in a lucid dream. Like if something's going the wrong way, or you just don't want to, it doesn't have to be negative. It could just be, you just don't want to go that way. You can change directions, or you can replace the individual that's in the dream. I've done that many times. Or like somebody's been there and I'm like, like let's say that there's 5 people in the dream, right? 4 of them, you're really glad to see them and you really want, and like this dream is going really well. And then one of them is just like, I could take relief you being here. Why are you here? Right? You can either erase them, or you can replace them with somebody else, and then create more of a party of 5 individuals that you want to be around, or experience this dream, and you want that other person to be in here versus the person who was here originally. That's what you can do. Could you sit down and like call upon, let's say, as your example, your mom, your grandma, your grandpa, and sit down and grill them about death and the afterlife and have them answer all the questions to the great mystery? Absolutely not. It's not. That's not lucid dreaming. That would be the ultimate power. I mean, that's something that God could do. That's not something man could do.
Well, then my entire tirade back there a few moments ago, it was useless.
It's useless. Yeah.
Well, that's what I get for not breathing.
Not the sense though, because you did segue into kind of the last one here, which is the sense of them still being present in real life when you wake up, such as smell or feel, which would be the hug thing, right? Like when your mom gave you that hug, and then you woke up and you were bawling and you felt like you got hugged. That is one of the that doesn't happen in a normal dream. When you wake up from a normal dream, usually you're just like, holy shit, that was a great dream, man. Like that was cool, or that was really scary if it was a nightmare or a negative dream, whatever. You feel that initial thing when you wake up, but you don't physically feel it. You don't smell your mom's perfume when you wake up from a dream. I don't smell my dad's aftershave when I wake up from a normal dream. I don't feel the hug that I got from my grandpa when he put his arm around me. I don't feel that in a normal dream, but I felt that in the visitation dream when I woke up. And so that's the same thing. And that's the same thing with you, right? Getting the hug from your mom when you needed it, and her telling you that everything's going to be okay. That's a reassurance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, I see that you're struggling, and you need a hug. That's a great, well, number one, that's just a great thing. Number two, because hugs are great things. And number two, it's nice to know that your mom's on the other side and that she's watching out over you and that she loves you, obviously, and that she's kind of like when she sees that you need a hug, you get a hug.
Not all the time, but that time, yeah.
Hey, that's okay. I'm still pissed about, not pissed, but kind of upset about the fact that my spirit guides still choose to remain hidden in the shadows. And I know they're listening, and they're probably laughing their asses off.
Oh yeah, I've had multiple things happen to me, and I'll ask Cena about them. She'd be like, "Yeah, your higher self was showing this to you for this reason." And your higher self, and I'm like, my higher self is a dick.
Yeah,
like I've used that phrase a lot because I'm like, what about this? I don't want to know that. I want to know this. And it's like, no, you can't know that. Well, F off me.
Yeah.
I'm
no,
like,
I've said F you to my higher self previous.
Our higher selves are, I want to get douche canoes.
Yeah, I want to get him out.
Your higher you?
Yeah, move him to the sidelines for a while and let me step up to the plate. I don't give a shit that he's batting 1,000 and I'm batting 241. I don't really care. It's time for me to get a cut at the plate. So move your 1,000% batting average ass over to the bench.
Yeah,
get some pine splinters. Give me a chance at the plate.
I did tell Cena recently that I understand why certain things can't be known and certain things have to play out the way they do. Like, that still doesn't mean he's not a douche canoe, and I still, don't agree with everything that he's doing. But I understand that. But I understand now.
Right.
So just to make sure that we get it in, you said you had some statistics on visitation streams. I want to get, before we get into possible meanings of visitation dreams, unless you want to do that first.
No, that's
what
fine.
I want to make sure we get your statistics in.
I looked them up and I screenshot them because I was doing research on my phone. So give me a second. Okay. So surveys show that roughly, no, I'm sorry. Although since we talked about lucid dreaming, I'm going to throw this out there just as a little quick side note, then I'll get to the other one. But surveys show that roughly 55% of adults have experienced at least one lucid dream during their lifetime. And 23% of people experience lucid dreams at least once per month.
Once per month? Wow.
Yeah, that sounds high to me. 25% of the population lucid dreaming once a month.
That's a lot of wet dreams.
That's a lot of sex dreams. Absolutely. Okay. So from Psychology Today, so I'm giving credit where credit's due here. Women are more likely, 56%, than men, 36%, to report a visitation dream.
I can see that.
African Americans, 54%, and Hispanics, 53%, are more likely than Caucasians, 42%, to report a visitation dream. And people with a high commitment to religion or a low commitment to religion, so high commitment to religion's 38%, low commitment to religion's 33%, are less likely to report a visitation dream than people with a moderate or medium religious commitment. And those people that are in the medium religious commitment, meaning that you believe, but you're not a Bible thumper, or you're not an atheist or agnostic, would be the opposite end of that spectrum. So, Bible thumper is probably a negative connotation term. So if you're devoutly religious, let's just say that's probably a better term. I'm not a PC kind of guy, but so if you're devoutly religious, okay, like to me, somebody who's devoutly religious, like you live your life right to the letter of the Bible. That's the 38%ers. Agnostic and atheist, that's the 33%ers. The people in the middle who believe that there's a higher being, people who are Christian, people who go to church, even if it's just at the holidays, people who, use Jesus, talk about Jesus, that's the 54%ers. So, I think that it doesn't surprise me one bit that African Americans and Hispanics are higher in visitation dreams than Caucasians are. That didn't surprise me at all. What did kind of surprise me, not so much obviously the atheist. I thought that was high. Like the agnostic and atheist, I thought 33%, 1/3 of the population, one third of the atheists and agnostics in the population have visitation dreams. I would think that number's high to me. I would think that would be substantially lower. And on the flip side of that, I think the people that are highly religious would be higher than 38%. Like I would think that they would experience it at about the 54 percentile. Like I don't see the difference.
Now this
the Bible teaches you, not to get deeply into religion, but the Bible teaches you that everlasting life. If you believe in Jesus, your soul is saved and that you get to go to the kingdom of heaven and that you have everlasting life. So if you have everlasting life and that's what you believe and you devoutly believe that, then why in the hell is only 38% of the people of that group acknowledging the fact that a loved one who has passed, who has eternal life, is coming back to say hi and give you a hug because you need one, or coming back to give you a piece of life advice because you're going down the wrong path? It just seems to me like that would be a higher number. So
now
women are more perceptive than men. So that 56-36, I see that being logical.
Very much so. The thing about the higher devout and the lower, atheist and agnostic and whatnot, Now, they're not saying that they're not having those dreams. It's admitting to having one. Now, I completely get both numbers. I mean, agnostics, they're going to toss it out. It's going to have to be
lower.
Well, I mean, 33% of agnostics.
So 1 in every 3 atheists believes in an afterlife. Then that's the whole point of being an atheist. You don't believe in the afterlife.
Now,
those are the people who believe when you die, and that's just it. It's over. That your energy doesn't move forward. That's what an agnostic and an atheist pretty much believe.
No, they just believe that there's no God. So, I mean, you can still. I think you can be.
It's not just God. There's nothing. There's no higher being.
There's no higher being. That doesn't mean that there's no place that our soul goes. You can be an agnostic and an atheist, still believe in the supernatural. And so, if you believe in the supernatural, something's got to be there. The spirits go somewhere. Why not into our dreams? And the really devout people, I mean, what you said is absolutely true, but it's usually like their everlasting life, in God's presence in heaven. So it's one of those, if you can go to heaven, why are you coming back? And there are also a lot of people who are really devout are taught that there's no such thing as spirits, that everything is a demon. So if you have a visitation dream, you might take that. I agree. But
I do agree with you. I think that's a niche group of individuals who thinks that everything is a demon, that there are no ghosts.
Well, apparently not, because everybody thinks everything's a demon, Dave.
Well, only because of that.
I know.
It shows like that, like portals to hell, right? I mean, like I told you that right when that came out years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what a stupid title. What is that? What is that show even implying? Right? That like every place they're going to go visit, there's like this portal to hell. Why does it have to be a portal to hell? Why can't it just be a vortex? Why can't it just be haunted? Right? Why does it have to be a portal? And then obviously everything with Zach is negative and dark, and it's a demon, and the corruption of soul. I mean, everything now, and and like we talk about all the time, and you love to point out, it's because they sell advertising space, right? That's all that matters. Mm-hmm. The context of the show can be shit, but as long as they know they can sell out the full season, it's going forward. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And society as a viewership obviously likes that kind of negative, everything's a demon type of mentality, because you can't argue with the success of I don't have the numbers in front of me, but 20 seasons that Ghost Adventures has been on?
Yeah, I don't care.
18, 12, 16. I'm just saying the longevity of that show gives credence to the fact that the viewership likes the fact of this dark, negative connotation, that's the only reason it's still on. It's the only reason probably Taps isn't, to be honest with you.
Aren't they? I haven't even watched.
No, I haven't seen I mean, I think that was off the air years ago. So anyways, I pulled something up quick I want to throw out there, and not to disprove you or not any. I didn't pull it out. I pulled it up because I was curious myself. Agnostics think that it's impossible to know whether there is a God or life after death. Atheists believe there is no God and no life after death, and that death is the cessation of the existence of the individual. So in that context, which is kind of what I said, is that atheists don't believe that that is the finality of it. So that's why that number seems high to me.
That's fair. Yeah, but then again,
kind of what I'm basing it on is that, they don't believe in life after death. So if you don't believe in life after death, how the hell could you have a visitation dream? Because you couldn't have a loved one come back and visit you, because that loved one doesn't exist anymore. That would just be a normal dream.
I would put it up there, though, that there are a lot of people out there who misidentify themselves. That they believe
that, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. For one of your very first things you said, which is that visitation dreams are probably much more frequent than they get credit for. Mm-hmm. because I think they are. I think you're right on the head with that. I think that number is probably substantially higher than 54%. And I think that there's also, on the flip side of that coin, I think that there's also visitation dreams that aren't visitation dreams, but get categorized as a visitation dream because they have one or two of the 9 parameters. And I don't know that we're going to get a chance to get into the 9 parameters because we've only got 7 minutes left. So this might have to be like somewhere sneak in like a part 2 for a half hour. Do like a split show type of thing.
Well, we actually have 8 minutes because we started 2 minutes late because I was distracted and forgot to do the most basic thing that is my job to do. So when you mean the parameters, you mean the meanings or do you mean something else?
No, I mean like I jotted down, I've got 8 parameters, like 8, I don't know if you want to call them definitions, parameters, but like 8 things that out of the research I did, 8 things that really need to fall into place for it to be considered a visitation dream. So on this particular page that we found that I said, hey, this would be a good outline for us to follow. It gives 9 possible meanings of visitation dreams. So these are, I mean, do you want to just run through those quick?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, just a brief, because I mean, a lot of these I think are good. Other ones not so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, you start, just alternate and go back and forth quick.
Okay. So number 1, you are coping with loneliness. I don't know if that necessarily brings out your loved ones, your deceased loved ones, to like keep you company for a half hour or whatever, or a night. So I guess I get why maybe they would put that in there. I just don't, because I've been lonely tons and tons and tons of times, and that is not what brought out like my mom or any other visitation dream that I had. So I don't exactly, maybe for other people that might, but I think that this is something that could probably be put into another category. Like you could get rid of this and you could put it in with another category.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see that as being one of the, to me, that would not be one of the parameters of a visitation dream. I agree. Mm-hmm. Loneliness is, if that were the case, everybody at times in their life is lonely. So that would be, potentially opens a door for visitation dreams for 100% of the population. Because I don't care who you are, everybody experiences loneliness at some point in their life.
Yeah.
So I would agree with you. Number 2, you're still grieving a significant loss. So grief and loss, complex, obviously, loved one passes away, animal passes, you're whatever it happens to be, you get this incredibly overwhelming loss in your life. Totally agree with the fact that is a strong point for having a visitation dream. As a matter of fact, I think that's at the core. I think that's one of the core things of getting a visitation dream is the grief associated with a significant loss.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Definitely think that should be there. I think that is probably 90% of visitation dreams is the I'm still here. I'm all right. I love you. Let me help you cope, with what's going on. Number 3, you need guidance. I think this is probably going to be more of the spirit guides, visitation dreams than the loved ones. Not a lot of stories that we had was, I got my aunt, passed away 2 years ago and came to me and told me that, I need to invest in Amazon. Like there's no, there's not a lot of these stories where guidance was put out there. But again, with the whole, spirit guide type thing, that I think that's where they come in. They're the ones that are like, you should probably do this, make sure you do this, than anything. But threat simulation theory represents the idea that dreams help prepare people to cope with various situations. A visitation dream allows your brain to accept and even rehearse planning for future events. like that just seems to me to be one where lucid dreaming would come in, like if you were changing stuff, because if you're trying to rehearse, but then you would also have to know that this is a future event.
Right.
That's more of a psychic dream than it is a visitation dream.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
So
I do agree the guidance thing though. Like if you find yourself at a crossroads, right, and you need to take the left or the right path, I think that's a perfect time for a spirit guide to come in and to help you with guidance. And I agree with you that would be a perfect time for a visitation dream from your spirit guide. Do I think your mom, dad, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whatever is going to be that person in that moment? No, I don't. I think it will be a stranger, but somebody you have this incredible amount of trust for, and you don't know why, but you just do, and that they're gonna help you make that decision, and get you on the right path. Number 4, you're dealing with stress. Well, again, that goes back to coping with loneliness. Everybody is, I don't care who you are, everybody has stress in their life.
Stress, anxiety,
financial stress, relationship stress, health stress. There's so much stress in the world to go around. There's an overwhelming amount of stress in the world to go around. There's enough for everybody to get their fill. So is that a reason to have a visitation dream? I'm going to throw that in with the loneliness thing. I don't think that's a precursor for having a visitation dream.
Number 5, you're coping with trauma. And this is the same as a loss. I mean, they could have put this in the same one. It could have been with a loss or trauma.
Yeah.
And
the only difference here is the PTSD comment was the only thing that I would differentiate between the loss and the stress.
It's true. But again, you could put them under the same category, just with different paragraphs.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that one, because we're running out of time.
Number 6, you're reminded of your loved one. I think that's a perfect time to have a dream of somebody that you care for, or somebody that's passed that you loved. I don't think that that's necessarily a visitation dream. I think that's just a regular dream. Like you just, you loved your grandma, you were thinking about her, something sparked a memory, a good time. Thanksgiving was just here. Maybe, it's always had a great time at grandma's at Thanksgiving. And you went to bed that night and you dreamt about her because you've been thinking about all the great memories about her at her place for Thanksgiving. And so you dreamt about her. Yeah, that's just a normal dream. That's just a good dream. I don't think that's a visitation dream.
I agree. I don't like this one at all. I'm reminded of my mom and grandma every time I walk in the door. There's 2 pictures of them hanging right there. They don't visit me and say, "Hey, I saw that you were thinking about me." No, I think about them all the time. I mean, so yeah, I don't agree with this one whatsoever. You are experiencing a major life transition. I think this could probably go to anxiety and stress as well.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and guidance.
I throw it under guidance. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so this one, I don't know if this brings on a visitation dream. Honestly, I don't. Could it? I guess it depends on the major life transition. Right. If it's just you're switching careers, probably not. If you're like switching sexes, maybe. Because that might be a time when you would need a parent. So it depends on the major life transition.
I would agree. You want to let go of something, like resentment, fear, or a rigid opinion of something.
A rigid opinion. Sorry.
You may not necessarily know what this something consciously is, but your deceased loved one acts as a point of guidance for assuring you that it's okay to release what you're trying to control. I don't know. To me, that's not a trigger. That's not a reason to have a visitation dream.
Yeah, and they put guidance right in the thing. I mean, it could go right under the you need guidance. Right. And number 9 is the most god awful. Like they just put this in there just to have 9,
just because they needed an odd number. That's the only reason this one's here.
Yeah, there isn't a strong particular reason. Like that is it. Like that's not me throwing my opinion out there. That is literally what is written. There isn't a strong particular reason. So they just come for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe they could, but still something is going to, trigger their needing to come. Unless you just have a very unhealthy relationship with whoever is visiting you. So, all right. That's our show for this week. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe. We want to see you back here.